Coming up on At the Aga Khan Museum, we'll get a behind-the-scenes look at the stunning new image exhibition. Up close with Steve Oda, a world-class sarod player, and we'll see how one piece of artwork twists tradition. Hi, welcome to At the Aga Khan Museum. I'm Amirali Alibhai, Head of Performing Arts. We've got a lot of great stories for you today, but we start off with a rare treat. We've all spent some time in a museum, perhaps in an exhibition. Maybe you've asked yourself, how did that object get here? How did that painting get here? We've created a 4-part behind-the-scenes special on the process that brought our image exhibition to life. Here's part 1.
Living within these walls are works from across the globe, spanning centuries and revealing stories of shared connections. Hi, I'm Ali Badshah, and for me, as an artist and storyteller, I am driven by a burning desire to connect to the visual. I'm here at the world-renowned Aga Khan Museum, a place dedicated towards fostering pluralism in the arts, to take you behind the scenes as the team prepares for a new exhibition called Image, the Power of the Visual. So come, join me. To start us on our journey of discovery, we're going to be chatting with the museum's director, Dr. Ulrika Al-Khamis, who is overseeing this fascinating exhibition.
When you look across world cultures, wherever you look, people have always made images. How do we visualize power? How do we visualize spirituality? How do we visualize our identity, our values, our ideals? Image, the power of the visual, talks about that and talks also about the image we are trying to create of ourselves and of others in the process. We create images on our smartphones 24/7.
Oh yeah, I do.
Hundreds every day. We share them, we receive them, we flick through them.
It's very transactional.
Exactly. But no image is ever made without an intention. Right?
Absolutely.
And in that, no better time to actually stop and reflect a little bit on what are these images around us trying to tell us.
Right.
So in our exhibition, we are actually starting with an artwork that consists of 275,000 images.
So you basically stole my smartphone and took
There
all my
you
photos.
go, there you go.
Perfect.
Try to suspend that from your living room ceiling, because that's what we are going to try and do in the gallery upstairs.
That's incredible.
I think it's time that I just take you behind the scenes down into the vault. Okay, let's go.
Perfect.
So this space may look like a glorified storage space, but it's actually a lot more complex than that. All our objects are temperature controlled in this space, and I create microenvironments for specific objects based on their material composition.
Exactly.
And sometimes when you examine objects, you find amazing things. So one day we had a miniature painting under a microscope, and one of our conservator colleagues discovered a little beetle that had been caught under the pigment. So it was an authentic 17th century little bug.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right?
So how often do these types of works come together in one exhibition?
You have your big idea. You want to illustrate your big idea with cool objects. And we are lucky we have a wonderful and very important collection in the museum. But then also sometimes you need to borrow pieces from elsewhere. Sometimes objects are so fragile that they cannot travel.
So we have to get up close and personal with this object.
What a beautiful piece. Like there's so much detail and just so much fine work in there. It's phenomenal.
It's bringing political ideology and spiritual convictions together through this unifying medium of calligraphy.
Beautiful.
So this is a completely different approach to projecting your power to the onlooker. Every culture at its time, in its particular space and place, had its very specific ways of projecting power.
Well, thank you both for sharing all the details and really setting me up for this journey. We're here in the temporary gallery where image, the power of the visual, will be taking place. The transformation in this space is going to be massive. Paint selection, lighting, visitor flow, so many different elements come together to make an exhibition work. So I'm going to be meeting up with the exhibition's manager to get an inside look at how this all comes together. Come on. Obviously, as the exhibitions manager, you're at the forefront of creating this experience. So what does your role entail?
So I work really closely with the curator, the designer, and the whole project team throughout the process to develop the experience that visitors are going to have in the gallery.
What's the process of putting something like this together?
So the design process always has to start with the purpose of the exhibition and the message of the exhibition. And then that helps the designer decide how that's going to be communicated physically through the gallery space itself. So what you're looking at here is the final gallery layout. Okay. And then we go down layer by layer into more and more detail.
Wow, okay, so walk me through this.
So object placement and sequencing takes so much time, and there's hours of discussions that happen about the order that visitors encounter objects. And then we think about flow. Okay, if you turn this corner, does it make sense to go right or to go left? And which object do you need to see first? And changing the placement based on that, ensuring that the story that's being told is communicated clearly through that physical flow. The newest work in the exhibition was finished just a few months ago by the artist Rashid Rana, and it's called Together Alone. And visitors are going to see it from across the gallery, more than 100 feet away. From that vantage point, what you see are 19th century self-portraits by a French photographer. And then as you move closer, you start to see that it's actually made up of thousands of selfies compiled to make this image. So it's this artwork that has beautiful dialogue between historic and contemporary selfies, and also kind of reminds us that people have been taking pictures of themselves for over 150 years.
That's right, that's right. Well, I can't wait to see this all come together. In our next episode, we'll be taking an inside look at the care and conservation taken to preserve these items, and we'll also be having a conversation with the installation project manager to get this exhibition ready for the public. See you next episode.
I'm with Chelsea George, our social media and marketing officer. Hi, Chelsea.
Hello, Amirali.
Good to see you.
You too.
I've been walking around outside in this beautiful weather, and I've noticed some changes.
Yeah. So those changes are probably the Contact exhibition in the Aga Khan Park. So it's entitled An Ocean and Drop, Muslims in Toronto, and it's by a British artist called Mahtab Hussain. And An Ocean and Drop is inspired by a poem by the 13th century poet Rumi. And it essentially is all about the human condition and how everyone is unique. And so Mahtab Hussain sits down with some local Toronto Muslim youth and documents their perspectives on living in the city, both positive and negative. And so the way that this translates in the exhibition is across 6 different stories that are presented on panels throughout the park. And it's essentially just their experiences of growing up in living in Toronto. And so it's a really incredible exhibition.
Wonderful. And anything else going on in terms of the park and being outside?
Of course. We have an exciting 6-day summer festival coming up, Rhythms of Canada. It's June 28th to July 3rd. And it's 6 days packed full of family activities, live performances for some really exciting musicians. There's clay painting classes, chess workshops, and we have a really exciting Canada Day celebration It's going to include a flag raising ceremony and a performance by the Royal Canadian Regiment Band.
It sounds awesome. I think that people are really looking forward to being outside this summer. It's been a while since we've been able to gather and celebrate
Exactly.
together.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially since the last Rhythms of Canada Festival was 2 years ago, so it's nice to be able to welcome people back.
So tell me about what's going inside the museum. We've been outside. How about inside?
Yeah, so in our permanent collection, we have a really exciting rotation that's coming up, and it's called Birds. And essentially what a rotation means is that every 6 months, in order to preserve the objects in the collection, they're swapped out. So the one that we have coming up, it's based around different bird-themed objects in the permanent collection. And part of that rotation is an exhibition called Hakantopal, the Golden Cage, and it's about bird migration. So we're really looking forward to it. It's opening in the middle of June, and we can't wait.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Steve Oda is a world-renowned performer of North Indian classical music. His chosen instrument is the sarod, which is a stringed instrument. It's fretless. It's kind of like a steel guitar. He recently performed in this theater, and we had a chance to talk to him. You're going to love the acoustics in here when you do your sound check. Okay. After you.
Thank you. Thank you. Amirali, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's nice to welcome you to the Aga Khan Museum.
I am honored,
Yeah.
truly. How I started the sarod was really, I suppose, an offshoot of my jazz and my steel guitar playing.
Okay.
That kind of collectively influenced me to want to improvise, express my feelings through music, which I've always wanted to do.
Being from Toronto, being Canadian, being third-generation Japanese, how has that affected the decisions you've made and the things that have attracted you?
I guess because the Indian classical music I became infatuated with was so expressive and so much feeling, depth of feeling. And my parents reinforced in me the notion that I should be, or try to be, good at whatever I was going to undertake. Mind you, they would have probably wished I had learned a Japanese classical instrument rather than Indian, but somehow, I guess it was Ravi Shankarji who began the process for me, and Ali Akbar Khan Sahab who amplified that.
These are pretty big names. How does that happen? How did you meet these people?
I became obsessed with wanting to learn from someone. But there weren't any sarod players in Toronto at the time. I reached out to Ravi Shankarji during one of his performances here, and he said, "Write to me, I'll help you." So here's my address. So I wrote to him, and I didn't hear anything back. Meanwhile, I was doing my engineering job. And then just before I was to start on my vacation from my engineering job, I decided to call long distance information whether there was an R. Shankar living in Los Angeles at Dorrington Avenue, this address that he gave me, and the operator said, "Yes. And here's the number. Shall I call it for you?" I said, "Please." She called. He answered the phone. He remembered my letter. He said, "Didn't Ashish Khan, Khan Sahab's eldest son, didn't he write you back?" I said, no, I haven't heard anything. Ah, leave it up to me. I'll call you back. Give me your number. I didn't think he would call back. Why would he call back? But a few hours later, he said, it's all arranged. He called back, and it's all arranged. Come, as soon as you can. You can stay with my tabla player, Ustad Aga Khan. And just like that, I was going to Los Angeles.
You are the first classical Indian musician performing classical Indian music since the pandemic began, right? So it's a very special performance that we're looking forward to this evening.
It's my Khan Saab's 100th centenary, and for that occasion, I thought I would choose ragas that were close to his heart. The classical music of India is so deep, so rich, so incredibly expansive that I never think to, okay, now it's over. Now you've become who you've become. Good for you. Now you can stop. No, it's not like that at all. I try my best, and it's a life full of nothing but practice and trying to improve and learn from all the mistakes that I make.
I think you're going to enjoy the space playing in it.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Steve.
So the raga Madhu Malati by Ali Akbar Khan Saab.
Coming up in the show, a visit with the Aga Khan Museum's education program to see how they're shaping young minds. Kune is an intercultural band made up of Toronto-based artists. They tour the world, each contributing a unique fingerprint based on their training and background. We recorded members of the band here in our theater during the pandemic. They shared some of their influences and played a few of their favorite songs. We're going to hear first from Padide Arar-Najad, who is a tar player from Iran.
My name is Padide Arar-Najad. I am from Tehran, the capital city of Iran. One thing that I really like about Tehran is that it's surrounded by a beautiful mountain. This song is Morgh Sahar, composed by Ney Dawood, and the lyric is from Bahar. The name of my instrument is tar. Tar in Persian means a string, and maybe the name of the sitar, guitar, all came from these old instruments. Tar is made of mulberry wood, and the neck is made of walnut wood, and we have a natural string on the top. We can say that it's two hearts that hugging each other, and maybe because of that the sound is so lovely. We have 6 strings on the tar, but we played it in pairs. It means that we have 2 C, 2 G, and on the top we have a low C and again high C. I play traditional Iranian music. The traditional Iranian music is something that you can listen it with your heart. It means that it's not about the speed and showing off. It's something that people can feel it. And it's not about the party time. We can say that it's for after party. When you want to rest and think, you can listen to Iranian music. This song doesn't have any name yet. This is my composition. I hope you enjoy. One thing that I really missed about being far away home is missing my family and friends. In Iran, I didn't have a chance to play with musicians from different countries, but here in Canada, I'm able to do that every day. This is my goal as a musician, and we can say it's one of my goals for immigrate here. I did the audition for Kune when I was just 6 months here. And I can say that's the best thing that happened for me in Canada. My colleague in Kune, they are the best musician that I know here in Canada, and I have a chance to play with them, and I can achieve my goal for coming here to Canada and as an immigrant.
Coming up in the show, we're going to see a painting that gives unique insight into a famous Persian love story. Hi, I'm joined by Hafiz Printer, education specialist. It's good to catch up with you.
Yeah, it's good to see you again.
You know, we're back, open again. What's going on in education?
Exciting times. So now that we're back open again, we can invite school groups in. We've been doing virtual programmings for the entire pandemic, but now that the museum's open, we're seeing this floodgate open of schools wanting to come, visit, do things using their actual hands while they're here. And so we've seen this huge shift from virtual back to in-person. And we're getting, I think our first week in June, we're probably getting about 400 kids just in that first week coming through. And it's just great. We're getting all kinds of excitement from teachers. And one nice thing is we've been adjusting programs. So some teachers have been like, hey, we really want something on this. Can you do that? And so we've been creating some very interesting bespoke programs for teachers, both our Ismaili educators in the STEP program as well as secular teachers in the schools. And it's been fun. There's an energy that comes from having the kids be in the space, and that vibrancy that comes from the excitement you hear when they realize something, they create something, when they see one another.
And how about the teachers? Are you doing anything specific?
Oh yeah, the students aren't getting all of the fun. The teachers also have a few things that are upcoming for them. We have a Summer Teacher Institute that we're launching for the first time this summer with the goal of empowering teachers, building up that confidence around Islamic history, culture, civilization, which we didn't really, like I was a teacher beforehand, we never really learned about it when we were in school or in teachers college, and so it makes it difficult to bring into the classroom space if you're not comfortable with it. The Institute's aim is to, one, build up that comfort, but also give them tools to add to their collective toolkit so that way they can incorporate this into the classes throughout the school year.
Well, it sounds like you've been really busy with schools and with teachers. We've got some video to look at of the education team in action. Let's take a look.
The school programs of the Aga Khan Museum are offered both on-site and online, either live or pre-recorded for different age groups. We have different programs including pattern play, reading visual storytelling, calligraphy, exploring colors, adventures along the Silk routes, and science. Each of our programs start with a tour around the gallery and is followed by a hands-on art activity inspired by the museum's collection.
The art in our collection is decorated with 4 main design motifs. There's geometric patterns, shapes, there's figural patterns, humans and animals making a pattern, there's floral patterns, so flowers and plants, and there's calligraphic patterns, so really fancy writing. You have a hexagon.
If you have more than one tile, you can tessellate to make a repeated pattern without any large gaps or spaces in between.
What is a story? Why do we have stories? What is their purpose? And where do we learn our stories? In this program, we will explore these questions in connection to the collection here at the Aga Khan Museum. We're going to look at 3 different forms of visual stories from our museum collection. We will examine how an object tells a story of the world from which it came, how folklore provides inspiration in designs, and how illustrations enhance narrative storytelling.
Today, we are going to go back in time, travel across the world, and explore the art of writing. Calligraphy means beautiful writing.
Today, we are going to explore colors in the art we find from the Muslim world, where they come from, how they're used, and also the stories that the colors can tell us. In order to make a pigment into a paint, you have to go through a few steps. First, you have to grind up your pigment using a mortar and pestle or any other material until it becomes a fine powder. Once it's a fine powder, you can add what's called a dispersing agent or vehicle.
Today, we are going to explore what life was like for traders who traveled along the Silk routes. The Silk routes were trading networks that stretched from east to west, from Asia to Europe. Trading is the act of buying, selling, or making an exchange. For example, if you were buying, you might trade money for food. If you are selling, you might trade food for money. If you're exchanging, you might trade an apple for a mango.
Artifact cards. What motifs decorated Islamic artifacts?
For more information about our school programs, please visit our website.
You've been really busy.
It's been a fun time.
Yeah. Well, the next piece is a peer perspective. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a phenomenal group of curators at the museum, and they put together these behind-the-scenes breakdowns of some of the objects that we have. So many of our objects tell these wonderful stories that when you pass by them, you may not be able to take that in right away. They did a study recently. Most people spend less than 30 seconds, on average 7, when they pass by an item in a museum. And so to be able to pause and look at something slowly and have someone guide you through the story behind it is really interesting to see all the different layers and how you can connect to it personally. And so we have this wonderful piece coming up by Michael, and we hope that people really enjoy it.
Hello, my name is Michael Chagnon, and I'm a curator at the Aga Khan Museum. Now, for me, there are some paintings that are like great novels or great films, and I find myself returning to them again and again, taking in details I hadn't noticed before or simply spending time thinking about them. And so today I wanted to share one such painting with you from the Aga Khan Museum's collection. Executed on a single sheet of paper by an artist identified in a signature as Kamal, the painting depicts a woman standing by the bank of a pond, holding a cloth around her hips, but otherwise unclothed. It was probably made in late 16th century Iran. At some point after its completion, it was likely mounted in a muraqa, or album, with other works of art, although today it survives independently. With its subject of a beautiful woman, the painting fits well within the tradition of Persian single-sheet painting of the 16th and 17th centuries, which often depict alluring individual figures, though they're typically clothed. In fact, the woman's semi-nude state is one clue that the artist, Kamal, did not intend to merely create a generic depiction of a bathing beauty. Another is the deep blue color of the woman's cloth, which, despite some loss to the pigment over the years, continues to boldly draw our eyes. Together, these details would have immediately prompted viewers in 16th century Iran to identify the woman with Shirin, the female protagonist of the romantic tale Khosrow and Shirin. Composed by the poet Nezami in the late 12th century, the story recounts the tragic love affair of the Iranian king Khosrow and the Armenian queen Shirin, one of the most cherished tales in the Persian language. At the beginning of the story, the two protagonists fall in love, remarkably without having met one another. Khosrow falls in love with Shirin based solely on a description of her beauty, while Shirin falls in love with Khosrow upon seeing a painted portrait of him. Nezami goes on to describe how the two besotted lovers set out on horseback to find one another. For Khosrow, this is an opportune moment. Political disturbances are unfolding back home, and it's probably best to take some time away until things settle down. He disguises himself, donning robes in colors other than red, his signature look, and he slips away unrecognized. At the same time, however, Shirin sets out, having been told that she'd be able to easily recognize Khosrow from his red garments. It's in this way that the poet Nezami sets up the lovers' first encounter, one of the most famous scenes in all of Persian literature. Here, Shirin has paused her search, stopping by a natural spring to bathe. Just as she dips into the water wearing only a deep blue wrap, Khosrow happens upon the scene. From afar, he sees the beautiful woman and begins gazing upon her with desire. Shirin looks up and notices the figure. Startled, she covers herself demurely and flees, while Khosrow averts his gaze in shame. Intriguingly, neither one recognizes the other, though significantly, Nezami goes on to write that Shirin spends the rest of the day pondering whether the man she saw may have actually been her beloved Khosrow. The thing is, he wasn't wearing red. By the 15th century, illustrators of the story had established a standard compositional format to depict the scene, showing a mounted Khosrow gazing down upon an unwitting Shirin, seated in a pool and wrapped in her blue cloth. Later artists subsequently rehashed this composition many times, transforming it into one of the most commonly illustrated and easily recognized images in the Persian artistic tradition. Here I'm showing just one example from a Nizami manuscript in the Aga Khan Museum collection, dated 1527. This is all to say that Kamal's single-sheet painting of a semi-nude woman standing by the banks of a pool and holding a telltale blue cloth around her hips would have almost certainly been recognized by contemporary viewers as an allusion to this most famous scene from Nizami's story. But it is just as certain that viewers would have noticed the painter's alterations to the prototype. Instead of showing Shirin being gazed down upon and looking up at Khosrow, she now looks directly out at us, the viewer outside the painting. In other words, we now occupy the place of the peeping Khosrow. Moreover, Kamal's version of Shirin seems rather less demure than Nizami's. Instead of looking away, she returns our gaze and holds it, all while handling the blue cloth in an ambiguous and tantalizing manner. Is she actually concealing herself? With these artistic manipulations, Kamal places us right at the very edge of a psychological and artistic drama. This is the moment when Shirin must take action to cover up and flee from an unsolicited gaze upon her figure. And yet, here in this picture, she hesitates. Perhaps the idea is just beginning to percolate in the back of her mind that her spectator may actually be the one that she herself is seeking. Is she just beginning to recognize us as Khosrow, though we may not look quite like what she expected? In the end, Kamal's picture performs one final twist upon the tradition. With all of its seductive charms, it in fact returns us to the very beginning of the story. Now it is we, instead of Shirin, who fall in love with a painting.
Let's hear from another member of Kune, the intercultural band based in Toronto. Ahmed Monica is a percussionist, he's a songwriter, he's a singer, he plays many different instruments. He's from Iraq. Enjoy.
My name is Ahmed Monica, and I'm from Iraq, Baghdad. Baghdad is a very old city, and it's the first library and the first university. So people, they were coming from all over the world, bringing their knowledge, specifically to those scientists or spiritual people that they have knowledge to share. And they shared a lot. As much valuable information you're bringing, you will be valuable position in the city. So that's why it was the first university is called Al-Mustansariya, was the school to hold all of these amazing, talented people. I love Baghdad because it's beautiful, and also the people there is so warm. They check in with you even if they don't know you. If you sit in a coffee shop, everyone, Allah bil khair, Allah bil khair, like this. So I miss that. I was singing a song, it's on Bayat, because that's what we use in south of Iraq, in Basra. Bayat and Khashabe, it's called. Rasmak, Ayuni Rasmak. كل المودة اللي بينك وما بيني عيوني رسمك نشوفه هنا الاسم بيدي عيوني رسمك كل يوم أقول اليوم عيني يا قمر باكر وعلي لسان وراح عيني يا قمر باكر يردون. So today I brought this instrument called khishbeh, and that means wood, piece of wood. So it's made of wood, and the skin it's made of fish, so sensitive and loud. And sometimes they use goat skin, and this one particularly from the south of Iraq because it's big, and as much you go north, getting smaller and smaller. So using khashaba and other folk music in Iraq. I'll sing maqam, which is the scale of music in the Middle East, and this one is called Hujaz, is the most spiritual one. And each area in Iraq has different accent of the Hujaz, but I will use the one from Baghdad. زماني 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 لابويا خلالي ولامي أنا زماني لابويا خلالي ولامي وجريدة أصبحت لليقرا ولامي يا دنيا يا دنيا حشد جيوشك علي ويلمي وخر الموت وخر الحروب واخريك البلية يا مان يا مان يا مان يا مان What kind of music I do play? I play Arabic music mixed with anything. So, for example, mixed with Balkan, mixed with Celtic, Gypsy, mixed with jazz, funk. I'm trying to put my own music mixed with other genres to create a new fusion version of my perspective towards the music, if that makes sense. I learned to play this style because of my life journey, of my life soundscape. So I grew up in Baghdad, right? But I have Afro heritage ancestors. So we used to have this Sufi Afro ritual. And also in Baghdad, the music of Iraq is maqam, Arabic, the Georgian rhythm, the quarter rhythm, chobi, all of that. And then when I come over here, hearing jazz, funk, electronic music, hearing different background, Latino music, like European music. So that's what's happened in my head, is my brain. It's like, oh, this is close to this and that, and trying to put this kind of points, even though it's not very close to each other, but I'm trying to change a little bit from maqam, making it here and there, and creating a new way of Arabic music, I think. خالة خالة ويا خالة خالة شلون بيا ما دريتي معلومك يا خالة شما حكيتي خالة شلون بيا ما دريتي معلومك يا خالة شما حكيت وشي صبر العاشق وشي صبر العاشق وشي صبر العاشق وشي صبر العاشق when I came to Canada in 2015 in September to Toronto International Film Festival. I was planning to stay for maximum 1 month, and here we go, 6 years later, I'm here. I was forced to stay here in order to save my life, and I am so grateful to be here in Toronto. I miss the energy of Baghdad, the warmth of people, the easy life. I know it's danger there, but there's a lot of love. I love the diversity of Toronto and the space that you have and the freedom of choice. What I like the most about collaborating with other musicians from all over the world, it's heaven. And for me as a migrant, I feel so secure and powerful because I think it's each one of their journeys kind of my journey, and just to bring our voices and our languages with each other. It's like heaven, it's like a rainbow. It's so beautiful. One color is nice, but multiple colors together, it's beautiful.
Thanks for joining us on At the Aga Khan Museum. I'm Amirali Alibhai. We're going to leave you now with some images of our education program in action.
Bravo!